Our last blood cells we will talk about today are platelets, or otherwise called thrombocytes. Platelets are interesting in that if you look at their characteristics, they are also not a complete cell. So no nucleus. In fact, platelets are actually just parts or fragments of a larger cell called the megakaryocyte. So here's a huge cell called the megakaryocyte. It has a nucleus, has the plasma membrane and cytoplasm. And notice just parts of the cytoplasm actually basically flake off. And those fragments of the cytoplasm, that's what forms the platelet. And just for comparison, look at it versus the size of a red blood cell. So they're very tiny. The whole goal of platelets is that they aid in blood clotting. So here you see red blood cells that have leaked out at the vessel, and then you can see all of this brown protein surrounding it. That's all produced with the help of platelets. So some disorders of your platelets include a thrombus. A thrombus is a harmful clot. So in this picture, you have your red blood cells here. You have all of these proteins that are formed with the help of platelets, which are actually these tiny little structures right here. When the platelets do their job well, they cause the blood to clot. But sometimes clots are formed when they shouldn't be there, and that's the thrombus. An embolus is actually when that thrombus breaks off and starts floating through your blood vessels. And that's dangerous because then it could actually block the blood vessel. Another condition is the opposite. It's called thrombocytopenia. And that's when you actually have a lack of platelets. You don't have enough. And the problem here would be, of course, you wouldn't be able to form the clots and you would basically bleed easily. So what do you guys think? Heparin is an anticoagulant. So think about what anti means. Coagulant means to clot. True or false? Heparin inhibits platelets. So this actually is true. Anticoagulants inhibit platelets so that they don't form blood clots. So again, anti is against, coagulant is clotting. So against clotting, and platelets clot, so they're against platelets. So let me show you a picture here. This is a blood smear with heparin or EDTA, which is another anticoagulant. And this is without heparin or EDTA, without the anticoagulant. So notice here, without the anticoagulant, you're forming these blood clots. You can see them right here in purple. And these clots could be really dangerous, right, because they could stop blood flow. If you have someone who's susceptible to getting blood clots, for instance, maybe someone with clogged arteries, they might be put on an anticoagulant. The last thing I want to talk about is how you form blood cells. The process is called hematopoiesis. So poiesis, right here, means to generate. Hemato is for blood cells. So this process occurs in the bone marrow. Remember I told you about one of the cures for leukemia to get a bone marrow transplant because bone marrows create white blood cells, but they also can produce red and platelets. What happens is the bone marrow starts by producing what's called a hematopoietic stem cell. Stem cell, remember, is a blank slate cell that can grow up and mature into different types of cells. And this stem cell is going to mature into a blood cell, which is what hematopoietic means. So once it matures, it can become one of the three types of blood cells. So over here, the hematopoietic stem cell can become a red blood cell. It can become over here, right here, a platelet. Or it could be one of the types of white blood cells seen here and here. So they differentiate for each type of blood cell that I just showed you. Now, for red blood cells, it doesn't jump just from the hematopoietic stem cell straight to the mature erythrocyte. It actually goes through stages. It becomes a erythroblast first, so that's the immature red blood cell. Then it becomes a reticulocyte, which is somewhat like a teenager red blood cell. For white blood cells, it becomes the 5 different types. And for the platelets, it becomes the megakaryocyte first, which remember is that very large cell, and then you break off the fragments of it to get the actual platelets. So just to review, the platelets in blood cell formation, remember platelets are cell fragments that aid in blood clotting, and all blood cells start from a hematopoietic stem cell and then differentiate into different cells through the process called hematopoiesis.